All right, good morning. How are you guys doing today? Feeling pretty good. Haven't made any coffee yet, but did stop somewhere early this morning and get some coffee. It's funny, I tried to do a stream yesterday because I figured that would be fun, and I couldn't figure out my streaming software. Somehow I got locked out. Like my screen froze up and I had to restart my whole computer. And I thought, okay, well this sucks. Then I went back and I tried to figure it out again. And YouTube wouldn't let me stream because apparently I had started 20 streams. It just kept stopping and restarting the stream over and over again. And so I had to just make a video. But I didn't check my audio levels before I went to record the video. And so everything sounds fine at first when you're listening to it in the editor. But then when I uploaded it to YouTube, it ended up being super quiet. So you can't even barely hear what I'm saying in that video. So here's me trying to fix that. Double checking my audio levels before I record audio now. But yeah, it was super fun to record a video like that where you're just kind of hanging out and talking about random stuff. I got my mystery switches from Novel Keys, ordered 110 switches, and wasn't sure what I was going to get. And I ended up getting some kale switches. They're the box royals from Kale and Novel Keys collab, but they're kale switches. And I don't actually even own a kale switch opener, so I'm gonna have to go online somewhere and buy a kale switch opener. If you guys have any recommendations for cool switch openers or accessories for mechanical keyboards, let me know. I've also really been wanting to buy a nicer keyboard, a keyboard with a more advanced PCB. I'm not opposed to soldering. I have a soldering iron. I just don't know what to look for. I see it's really overwhelming when you first get into this hobby to look at all the different keyboards and what's in stock, what's not in stock. Spoiler alert, there's nothing in stock. And then you start to wonder man, are all the good keyboards out of stock? Should I not buy this keyboard because it's in stock? And then can't really get a consensus for what keyboards are good and what keyboards are bad. It's pretty much just, well, this keyboard has this preference, and there are very slight differences. I feel it's kind of hard to tell if you're not in person. So there's that, and then there's the whole what kind of switches do I want to get? I see all these switches and they have cool names and they look cool, but then I'm I don't know, is it a good switch? Are all the good switches out of stock? Should I just wait for those switches to come back in stock, or should I just order another thing of mystery switches just for fun? I think I'm probably gonna order another thing of mystery switches. I'm gonna order probably a kale switch opener, and then I'd really like to get some keycaps, but keycaps feel kind of too glamorous for me. I know they make a big difference in the typing experience, but man, some keycaps are almost the price of a nice keyboard. And I just don't feel comfortable spending $160 on keycaps and putting them on an $80 keyboard. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep looking around for a keyboard that sounds cool to me. I think that I'm not going to like go out and try and watch all the keyboard reviews. I think that I'm just going to go look and see like what keyboards are available, what's in stock, what's in group buy. Gonna look at just keyboards that I think look cool and seem fun. I don't want to try and go down the rabbit hole of looking for the best keyboard within my budget, because I think that's pretty much a trap. There's nothing wrong with, if you're at a low budget, like under $100, you definitely want to like look up some videos on what good budget keyboards are. I have the Royal Kludge RK61, and I love that keyboard. I think it is amazing. And it's a budget keyboard. So with some mods and stuff, and you put like a keycap set from Amazon on it, and you really take your time, and I mean like it probably took me 2 hours just to get the stabilizers decent. But if you take your time with the stabilizers and you don't need anything fancy, just, clip your feet, put your grease on there, and you probably need to do a little bit of a band-aid mod, not underneath the feet of the stabilizer, but between the stabilizer and the plate, just to reduce the wobble, because the stabilizers don't fit perfectly into the plate. There's some play there. If you do that, you can get them sounding pretty good. I put some foam and some tape. It's actually like this weird like double-sided tape that is almost kind of like, it's super thick and squishy. It's like a 1/16 of an inch thick, and I put that in my keyboard as well. And I don't know if that is making a difference between not having it, because I don't have anything to reference, since I just did all the mods at once, put the keyboard together, and came out great for me. But that might help. Anyway, I'll probably do a video on the stuff that I did to my keyboard to make it sound a little bit better, feel a little bit better. But yeah. What else? What else did we do? So I put that video out. Instead of doing a stream, I just made a video where I like open the box from Novel Keys and just like chat about random stuff and hang out. We took apart the Kale switches and kind of like looked at how the switch works. It's pretty interesting because instead of having the tactility come from the stem interacting with the upper housing, it comes from the stem having a bump, and next to one of the leaves there is like a little rubber piece on the bottom housing, and that kind of like bumps into the stem. That's what gives it its tactility. I don't know how I feel about these. I think that they're cool, but I don't know. I probably wouldn't just like go out and buy them. which is fine. You know, I got mystery switches so I could get something that I wouldn't normally go out and buy anyway. If you're buying mystery switches, definitely don't, you know, buy them with the expectation of getting like the exact switch you want, because you won't. You definitely won't. Only buy them if you're just like really like having the different kinds of switches and you want to try a new switch out. Do that. So I might do like a stream today if I can figure it out on I don't know, I was gonna say taking apart and lubing these switches, but like I said, I don't have a Kale switch opener, so I can't, like, I would have to physically like pull both sides of the housing up and then take it apart by hand for every single switch, which is like a ridiculous amount of extra time. And I'm looking at one right now and I can't tell if they are lubed or not. And I feel like they are, but not like a lot. I don't know. I hope not, because I prefer to have unlubed switches and then just lube them myself. Because cleaning off factory lube is such a pain in the ass. And honestly, I'm not going to do that. So I just go over this with some like super thin lube, like super lube. It's pretty thin lube. It's not thick like Krytox is. So it's a lot easier to, it's a lot more forgiving. If you over lube with Krytox, it's going to be super mushy and just nasty. But if you over lube with super lube, like a thinner lube, I've found that it's not as bad. It's still not ideal, but it's definitely better than ending up with a super mushy switch. And I lost the spring. Guess we'll just have to go find that later. So one switch down, 109 switches. Should still be plenty of switches, but you never know. Yeah, so that's what I did yesterday. Oh, getting thirsty. Oh, do you guys have suggestions for switches? I really want like a tactile switch, but I don't know what I want in a tactile switch. Like linears just feel so good. How do you know, these Acco jelly blues feel pretty good. I like the feel of them, but they're definitely not like end game tactile. So I don't know, leave your suggestions for tactile switches down below, because I really want to know. I feel like a lot of people can definitely agree on which linears are good linears, but then for tactile switches, I have no idea. I don't know if I like the bump on these ones, because it's so like the bump feels mushy. It doesn't feel like, feels like there's something wrong with the switch. It almost feels like it's a messed up switch. But I just want like a tactile that has no pre-travel. So like the bumps like right at the top, and then really sharp and crisp. But it can't be like loud. Like the quieter, the better. I want it to feel like I'm popping a bubble. You know what I mean? Every time I push a key, I want to be popping a bubble, like just a little bit of extra force. Sounds satisfying. You guys know of any bubble switches out there? Let me know. Yeah. I think the idea of Franken switches is pretty cool, but I'm also not like really into paying $1.50 per switch. It costs like $150 for switches, which I think is much more reasonable than paying $150 for keycaps, because the switch is like the actual mechanism that you're interacting with, and the keycap is just like the cover that sits on top of it. I don't know what you think about that. Do you think switches are more important? Do you think keycaps are more important? If you're more like into visual aesthetics, you probably would go with cheaper switches and better keycaps. But personally, I would probably rather have better keycaps and better switches and keycaps that aren't as good. Cat started meowing like crazy in this part. My hands were actually getting pretty tired because this was like probably a solid 25-30 minutes of typing. I did some typing before this session just to kind of warm up and make sure everything was working. So my hands were really tired. I need to like stretch them today before I do any more typing.